Imagine this. You are booking a cab, ordering food, or even checking live cricket scores. Ever wondered what happens in the background? Thousands of API requests are being sent every second. But how do companies like Uber, Swiggy, and Zomato handle these without even crashing? The answer is as simple as that. Serverless APIs using AWS Lambda and API Gateway. Hello everyone, I'm Subhashini SM from Amrita Vidyapeetham, and today I'm going to show you how to build, deploy, and test a serverless API that fetches real-time weather data, all fetching AWS Lambda and API Gateway. Let's get started. So first, what exactly is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. In simple terms, it's a way for different applications to communicate. If you have ever used apps like Swiggy, Uber, or Paytm, I know you have done it, you would have interacted with APIs even without you realizing it. For example, let's say you open a weather app to check today's temperature. The app doesn't store the weather data. Instead, it requests the information from a remote server using an API, which then responds with the current weather details. API act like messengers sending and receiving information between different systems. This is the main concept of it. So moving ahead, now how does AWS make this process seamless? This is where API Gateway and AWS Lambda come in. API Gateway is fully managed AWS service that allows developers to create and manage APIs effortlessly. AWS Lambda, on the other hand, it is also a serverless computing service that tends to run the code in response to API requests without needing to manage any service. So, in order to understand this also even better, let's take in another example. Imagine there is this restaurant, when a customer arrives, they place an order with a receptionist, namely API Gateway. The receptionist then sends the order to the chef, AWS Lambda, who prepares the dish and sends it back as a daily routine in a restaurant. Similarly, API Gateway receives a request from a user, forwards it to a Lambda function, and the Lambda function the process and returns a response. So moving ahead, you might have heard of REST APIs, but AWS also provides a lightweight alternative. Ever heard about that? HTTP API. While REST APIs are feature rich with built-in validation, monitoring, and API keys, they can be a bit more expensive and more complex. HTTP APIs, on the other hand, are faster, cheaper, and more efficient, reducing cost up to 71%. Moving ahead, let's start with the live demonstration part. I'll show you guys. Okay, so let's start by creating our AWS Lambda function, which will serve as the backend of our API. I'm now in the AWS Management Console. We are navigating to Lambda. We're going to create a function, so let me click on Create Function. I'm choosing order from scratch and a function name as Weather API. And I'm choosing Node.js 22 version. And then moving ahead, our create function. Our function will be ready in minutes. Okay. Since the function is ready, let me add layer to it. I've already set up a custom node.js layer that includes node fetch. I'll attach it before writing the function logic. Custom layers of node fetch layer. Let me add the version as well by clicking on add function. The layer is also been attached. Since we need node fetch layer for making the HTTP request, I've added this. Moving ahead, let me get to the Visual Studio Code part. We need the weather details of Chennai. So then we're gonna copy paste this. With respect to the code, let me deploy it first. Before that, we have to add the test event name. Let me give event. Okay, good. Okay. So my event name is gonna be weather test. Let me save this quickly. So, but before that, we have to integrate the API. So, in order to connect the API, we'll move ahead again to Lambda function. So, API gateway, we're going to create an API. Create it. So, we're going to build, we're using HTTP API because it's more reasonable. API name of Chennai. We're going to add integration because we have to link to the old function which we have created already, weather API. So again the version. Now we're gonna use the method of get method to get the weather details. Next, and then it's a default again. Moving ahead, back to the Lambda function. Okay. Let's click on to the weather API part. We have added layers. We've triggered the API gateway as well. So let's click on test to get the weather details as the output. Scrolling through, test it. Okay. So there is the status code of 200, as we all know. It's a successful, and the Chennai's weather condition is right now is 32.68 degrees Celsius. So this is how the live demonstration works. In just a few minutes, we built a serverless, cost efficient API with AWS that fetches real time weather data. But this is just the beginning. Think bigger. APIs are the backbone of modern applications from payment gateways to AI chatbots. Mastering API gateway and Lambda gives you an edge at cloud computing, backend development, and scalable applications. So here is my challenge for you. What's the next API you will build with AWS? Thank you so much for your time. I hope this inspired you to start building. Have a good day. Thank you.